So, Guido, you're running in the Democratic primary for Florida's 21st congressional district. You're running against I guess maybe now what a 4 year or she was a Congresswoman, Lois Frankel, in the 22nd congressional district, and the districts were, I assume, redrawn. And so she's been in Congress for 7, 8 years now. Is that right?
Absolutely. She kind of switched, went north to the West Palm Beach area, and then Ted Deutsch went south and kind of went to their stronger bases. They had a little bit of a flip-flop there.
Interesting.
Now.
Okay. And so give me a sense of, before we talk about why you think you're better suited to represent this district, give me a sense of what the 21st district in Florida is like.
Absolutely. So 21st District of Florida is it's kind of between West Palm Beach and Delray Beach. It is home. It's a diverse place that has some of the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest, residents in the entire country on the island of Palm Beach, including Mar-a-Lago, as well as neighborhoods that are cultural melting pots that are certainly at a much different income level. Religiously diverse, ethnically diverse district, very connected to our environment with the intercoastal and the ocean on one side, and we've got the Everglades and reserves on the other side. And this district has it's the age in this district is kind of, on some districts it's a little bit younger on one side of that scale and a little bit older. In this district we have a 20-30% I'd say senior population, and then a much different and diverse population below that.
Interesting. So give me a sense of, so we're talking about a fairly mixed district in terms of socioeconomic. This also sounds like it's a pretty safe Democratic district. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, here you've got a district that's 50+% Democratic, 30+% Republican, and then you have a NPA in Florida, what they're called non-party affiliates, which are certainly, both parties are doing their best job right now with their get out the vote efforts to draw those NPAs in.
Okay, so why are you challenging this Democrat? I mean, it sounds like it's a fairly safe seat. Why are you challenging Lois Frankel?
So it kind of goes back to my experience in Congress. I was a congressional staffer. I was the head of Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard's office in Washington, D.C. until January. And I went into Congress 4 years ago as a staffer, mostly working on national security related issues. And when I was working for Tulsi Gabbard, kind of branched out into a whole variety of issues. And I went in there, I would say, a little bit not knowing how things worked. And then I start getting more and more involved, and you have a little bit of an awakening. You learn about the campaign finance process, how bills that were originally meant to help people out get chopped up in committee processes, and really at the end of the day are doing a lot more for corporate interests than people in the district. And then one of the things I started doing was following my hometown representative, where I have here 4 generations of my family living right now. And I started to look at Congresswoman Frankel's mayoral career from various, being accused by a grand jury of Florida of pay-to-pay politics, and then looking into her congressional career, whether that was the accomplishments or not very many accomplishments in there, taking money from pharma, taking money from all these various companies that are not really helping the people of the district. And you can see that reflected in the policy that she's been espousing, fighting for or not fighting for. And I'll just say one more thing. I've seen representatives in Congress through those 4 years, some of them who are in the district doing community workshops with the communities that really need it most. And then you have those other types of representatives that just, they spend time in the wealthy donor communities. And that's what we have here right now, unfortunately.
I see. And, I got to be honest with you. We've had a lot of, we've talked to a lot of challengers of sitting Democratic Congress people, particularly ones who have been in office for extended periods of time. Maybe they're a little bit older. And one of the themes is that at one point, these people, maybe sometimes it's starting out that way and sometimes they end up that way. They get comfortable. They find it much easier just to go and raise the big money instead of actually going to the districts and legitimately addressing the varied issues of people in the district. So let's talk about some of those issues. For you, I mean, I'm looking at your issue sheets. You're a vet. You were as well as a fairly well educated person with a master's degree. Have a list of issues there. What is for you some of the most important issues that you think are ones that Frankel's not addressing? A, and B, that you think need immediate attention now.
If you don't mind, I'll just answer the first thing you brought up first.
Sure.
Many members of Congress do absolutely change when they go in, and then you see them 5-10 years later, and they don't want to go, and they become very corporate, and they just, Frankel, for example, has given $350,000-$400,000 to the party, and really worked that kind of ladder. Right now, just to kind of address that idea, you've got a completely different political world. I'm looking at Jen Perlman south of me, Sheila McCormick to the north of me, candidates across the state that are in primaries within their own party, when 2016, 2014 didn't have that same phenomenon to the same extent. And I got to be honest, I go to the Democratic Club meetings, and there are people in the party that are aggressive with you just for the idea of putting your name in the hat. But I don't want to go too much on that. I want to go to your question. Right now here in Palm Beach County, we have 120,000 uninsured people. I'm supporting Medicare for all. I think it is a solution to providing medical services for all of our citizens, all of our constituents. I was fortunate to have the experience of living overseas in a country that had a universal health care platform where you didn't have, hundreds of thousands of people going bankrupt over medical costs every year. And it wasn't something that was, really putting a strain on the family and individual household, because I believe healthcare is a human right. That's an incredibly important thing to our district. I believe in raising the minimum wage. Right here in Florida, the minimum wage of $8.56 and the federal minimum wage of $7 plus, that's $7.25, I believe. There was an MIT report put out about our district that showed that if you have 2 children in Palm Beach County, you have to earn over $10.25 just to stay above the poverty line. The living wage line, if you have 2 children, was $30 plus. And those researchers did a really good, thorough study. And those are 2 huge issues for this district. And the last one I'll mention is the environment. You've got somebody like Congresswoman Lois Frankel, who's not supporting big legislation to take us in the right direction, like the Green New Deal. And instead, if you look at her individual filings, has invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in fossil fuel companies and is backed by big agriculture in Florida that has been tied to algae blooms, coral in our ocean reduction. And that's something that I think there's a big awakening to right now.
Give me a sense of where you perceive, I know that you've got a vertical about COVID-19. You're providing resources on your site, which I think is, I frankly, I'm shocked when I see sitting Congress people who haven't compiled something like you have here. Give me your sense of how you think Democrats have responded to this crisis. I'm curious as to, because there are certainly some members of Congress who are feeling like, and we may be this week on the, seeing various machinations from like progressives joining up with some of the frontline Democrats in swing districts, saying we need more rigorous protection for jobs, et cetera, et cetera. What is your sense of how Democrats have been responding to the present crisis?
So I do believe that many aspects of the present crisis have shining the light of some of these policies that we're talking about. Healthcare for all. You have people in this district right now who are losing jobs, losing associated health insurance, and don't have anywhere to go, and are receiving a payment, one direct payment of $1,200, and then $600 plus the Florida $300, I believe $375 for employment insurance. And when I'm speaking to these people in the communities, it's not cutting it. If you've got a mortgage, you have 1 or 2 children, you have food, you have bills, landlords are not necessarily making breaks. I've plenty of people that we're speaking to who are having a lot of time just paying their rent. And I think the current response has been not necessarily as effective as it could be. And unfortunately, as we've seen in the last stimulus package, the relief bill, there was a lot of corporate-related measures that didn't help people but helped corporations. And a good example I have right now, and I won't say the company, but a friend of mine, a colleague from the community, was laid off of work, told to go get unemployment insurance, and then the company itself got money from the federal government while it's still having a really good year. And unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of corporate bailout and not enough bailout of the people of these districts. And I think that I know that the Democratic Party in both the Senate and the House need to be pushing harder to call this out and to correct it. Or else we're going in a bad. We don't know yet what's going to happen now that the state of Florida and the country itself is gradually, in some cases, very quickly opening back up. We don't know where we're going to be in 2 to 4 weeks yet.
Right. When is the primary?
August 18th. So we're actually the 45th. I believe we're the 45th primary in the country right now. So we're one of the later ones.
So it's a late primary. Give me a sense of what you feel like you need to do to win, and then how you're going to go about doing that. And I guess I would imagine you have multiple scenarios because you really don't know. I mean, it seems more than likely that there's going to be some type of social distancing. Like, it's hard for me to imagine that we will not be dealing with the COVID-19 by that time. But like, how do you go about winning when, one of the greatest strengths of a challenger, it seems to me that when we see challenges that have won, they do so because they're on the ground, they're knocking on doors, they're using volunteers. But that seems to be not necessarily available to you in this context. What do you have to do to win? And then how do you go about doing that?
And you're right. This is a different world than we could have expected. We launched the campaign in February. March 1st, the first COVID case hits Florida. The first known COVID case is documented in Florida, and things just closed down. Fundraising, petitions, you name it. And many candidates across the state couldn't qualify, unfortunately. Many progressive candidates weren't able to qualify. What we need to win, number one, is education. We have to teach the people of this district, and we're doing that mostly through social media, phone calls, and to some extent, very, very distant in-person activities. But there's a lot of people in this district that when I show them how to look up an FEC file or a congressional voting record, this is how many votes your member of Congress missed. This is how your member of Congress has been silent on certain issues because, this company or that company or this industry is giving $10,000 every cycle. So educating people on the differences and what they can know about their member of Congress. We are hoping also that as the races go on, I'm a pretty new candidate. I was working in Congress. I'm a Navy officer, but I haven't been a politician before. I'm brand new at this, and we are doing our best job to engage with the like-minded progressive community that's working for Medicare for All, a Green New Deal, raising the minimum wage. And while there are many people focused on the June and July elections, New York and other states, as we come in August, we're really, really hoping for people to turn their eyes towards Florida. In addition to that, we're nonstop campaigning. I mean, our phone program is continuing to go. We're actually discussing policy, actually putting what we believe for on the website, unlike my opponent. And that's what we're doing. It's doing the best job to engage everybody in the district. And I might have mentioned this before, but the current member of Congress goes to the wealthy neighborhoods only. From day one, have been engaging with every neighborhood and every constituent from every background. I don't even care what party they're from, to try and have that engagement so it equals good results. The last thing I'll say is that the primary races in Palm Beach County historically in 2016, 2018 have a win number of somewhere between 6,000 and 15,000. I believe we're going to expand our electorate enough to get those votes.
Well, Guido, I wish you luck. People can find out more at your website, voteguido.com, and learn about your naval service and you're, having grown up in Palm Beach County, and folks can help, I guess, donate and volunteer for your campaign at that site. Guido, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. You have a great day.